Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My guest today is Carol Noonan, or Soma ARah, and she is a Pleiadian starseed, and we will be discussing all things extraterrestrial. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to hear about your journey and experiences. So if you could just introduce yourself and say a little bit about this starseed origin of yours.
So I'm Soma ARah. My birth name was Carol Noonan. I've been on I'm actually 47 tomorrow, so I've been on this journey for quite a long time and been given a lot of information. I'm a channel for the Pleiadians, and I have been consciously since 2009, 2010. So I do readings, I do Pleiadian channeling readings as well through direct voice. I was upgraded this year, actually in the middle of an interview. Normally when I channel, the Pleiadians, they're next to me, but during this live interview, they told me to close my eyes, so I did, and they stepped into me and started to use my voice, which was very new to me, but I just went with it. And so I definitely had an upgrade this year, and so I'm now able to give direct voice channeling readings and direct voice channeling information, which is just amazing. I'm so thankful that I'm able to do that they trust me enough to do that. I had I've never had normal. I've never had normal, and I used to crave it, but I was born into what I describe as hell. A very traumatic childhood, poverty, alcoholic mum, a lot of abuse, a lot of sexual abuse. I was raped at the age of 13, had an out-of-body experience when I was 12 where I met Jesus that actually stopped me from committing suicide. I was like minutes away from taking tablets, and it wasn't a cry for help or anything like that. And I never actually told anyone until 2004, when I was living on Holy Island in Scotland. So, it's been a roller coaster ride, I can say. I've had lots of ups and lots of downs, and I'm just very grateful to be here at this time on Earth now.
Yeah, well, that is really amazing, and also very traumatic for you in the past, your past experiences. I'm really sorry to hear that, and it is hard to hear. I do notice a correlation between trauma and people awakening to these kinds of experiences. So you can say a bit about that if you want, but first I would just talk a little bit about my experiences, because I have a few questions for you, to kind of get your perspective on certain things. Like, I've watched a few of your interviews, and you speak about like seeing the beings in your mind's eye and astral experiences, and that's very similar to me. So I have seen various different beings in astral experiences and in meditations, in my mind's eye and things like that. But as far as I'm aware, I've never had a physical abduction. I did, apparently, when I was a child, talk about going somewhere in the night. But I don't have a memory of it. I've just been told that I used to say that. So maybe I could have like a regression at some point and find more out about that. But have you had both? Like, have you had physical abductions, or maybe you wouldn't call it an abduction because that sounds a bit bad, and you're like, you have a nice positive connection.
I would call it an abduction. I've had both. I've had a lot of strange, weird, wonderful, horrendous, beautiful experiences that aren't normal. And I have had abduction experiences. And when you see something in your mind's eye, that is linked to mediumship. So if you've got the ability to see spirit in your mind's eye or physically, that is mediumship. That is connecting with spirit. People can see them physically. I used to see them physically as a child, but these days I see things in my mind's eye. But that's mediumship. That's to do with mediumship. So it sounds to me like you have a strong ability to, and a strong mediumship ability. It sounds to me like you have a strong mediumship ability. And it sounds like you're a starseed. It sounds like you are having experiences, especially when you're asleep and you're on the astral. Yeah.
So you have had a physical abduction?
I have, yeah. In 2000, I think it was 2009 when I first arrived in Galway in Ireland, and I just left my husband and I moved to Ireland, and I heard this whirling outside, and I didn't pay that much attention to it. I noticed it and I registered it in my mind, but I didn't, link it to anything. I didn't really know what it was. I thought it was a bit odd. And then I went to sleep and I was taken up by the Greys. That was my first experience, conscious experience that I remember. I was taken up on board ship by the Greys, and it's actually in my book. I'll get it here, but it's because I have to write things down because otherwise I forget them. So it's in my book. So I went up, I was taken on board ship. I was taken on, and I was on a table, on a very cold, like slab of a table, like a metal table. It was very bright. There was a lot of lights. There was two grey beings. I woke up in the dream, and I don't think I was meant to wake up in the dream. So basically I woke up on board and wasn't meant to. They'd given me some type of anesthetic or something and put me to sleep, and I woke up on board the ship, and it was very bright, very light. I could hear people screaming and moaning and making noises of being in, like they were uncomfortable. They were moaning and screaming and not shouting, but making noises that told me they were uncomfortable. And when I woke up, there was, in the dream, so this is real. It was a dream, but it was real. There were two Greys on my left and there was one Grey on my right, and they were very small, typical Greys looking. They looked like Greys, and they spoke to me telepathically, and they looked at each other and they said, "This one's different." And they were about to do some type of operation or something on me, and they stopped and they realized I was different, and they actually said that to each other, "This one's different." And I didn't know what they meant at the time. I didn't know why I was different. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand any of it really, but I knew that they were going to do some type of operation on me. I think I was also linked up to some type of medical device or something. Something was attached to me somewhere, but I haven't recalled that fully. I don't think. That's still quite vague to me, but I just remember the fear in me. And there was a lot of other people in the room as well, so I wasn't the only one. And I was very lucky, because the next thing I knew, I was back I was waking up in my bed. And so that was the first abductee experience with the Greys that I've had. I've had lots of other things happen.
Can I just ask, when you said it was a dream but it was real, is that like a it was an astral experience, or?
Yes, it was astral.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens for the audience listening? What happens is when we sleep, we leave our bodies and we go into the astral plane. A lot of mediums say that's where spirit lives, but it's far reaching than that, because we live in a multi-dimensional universe. Mm-hmm. So there could be other beings there as well, or it could be a different higher plane or a lower plane. But it is the astral. So I've been having these real dreams since I was about 8 that I remember consciously, where I would be on my estate, rooftops, flying around above the rooftops. So these are real experiences. They're just not physical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get that totally, because I do have those astral experiences. I do know someone who had a very similar experience to that, only they did have the operation and they actually had their eye removed and something put in there. So I don't know if that was to observe something, or like a chip or something like that.
I would say so, Lee. I would say it was some type of monitoring device, because they do track us, they do monitor us, they do keep an eye on us, both the negative ETs and the positive ETs.
Yeah.
So that is often done energetically through our individual energy, but it's also done through chips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they did it, they did say she can be she had a similar experience to you, where she was feeling like maybe not suicidal but quite low, and she was taken by beings, like how you saw Jesus. She was taken by beings who lived on Mars, and they said that that's where she was from and that she could go back there if she wanted to, but she was a child at the time and very confused by like the whole thing, and just wanted to stay with her family. And they said she can be a watcher then, and then she was implanted with this chip, or whatever it was. So with these experiences, a lot of people believe that you might have a connection to the Pleiades, or in your case, or a certain origin star system. And often when these people have these experiences, they also believe that some of the more negative experiences were actually conducted by like the government of this world, instead of actual ETs from interdimensional or extraterrestrial. What do you think about that?
I think that's been going on for a very long time. I've had some experiences on the astral with the negative military and black ops, and very dark stuff going on there that's been going on for a very long time. So there are real abduction experiences, but there are also abduction experiences where it's actually military experiences. Yeah. So both are real. Yeah.
Would you say that there is a distinct difference between the appearance of a grey and a military ET or being, or whatever they are?
Yeah.
I've heard that they're quite robotic.
I've had negative astral plane experiences with the military, but I don't recall having one with where the military were involved and with ETs. but I know they do that. My experience with the military was that they had wanted me to work for them. I was in a car, they were driving me somewhere, and there was a lady there. If I ever see her, I'd recognize her. I could see her features and everything. And she was wearing a skirt and a suit, like a suit skirt, or a suit with a skirt. And there were military in the car with big guns. And there was a driver, and there was glass in between, like a chauffeur-driven car.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to work for them, and I said no. And they've tried many times to get me to work for them. And I think they've realized at this stage, because those that I remember started in 2009, 2010. So I think they've realized at this stage that I'm not going to work for them. And that I have been offered money. So, I mean, there's, at the top of the pyramid, I was shown that we are, all systems are run by negative ET energy at the very top of the pyramids. So the governments, the military, all systems on Earth are run at the very top by negative ET energy. So everything is falling away now and crumbling, and this is the Great Awakening. So there's a huge change. I mean, this is epic times we're living in. It's biblical, where all systems on Earth are crumbling and falling away and being torn down and naturally crumbling, in order for us to rebuild a new systems, a new Earth, a new world that is loving and positive and run by love at the core of it. So we are waking up to the governments that have been lying to us for generations, and all the negative bullshit that is fed to us, and also some of the really horrendous things like the underground children being kept. So it's basically a whole reset. I mean, even with the word reset, they've taken, that was a positive thing. Mm-hmm. They've taken that and inverted it. So they invert everything. They turn everything around to the negative. And that's what they've done with the word reset. So it actually is a great reset, what's happening on Earth now is biblical. It is the reversal of what happened at the time of Atlantis. So at the time of Atlantis, negative energy came in and overtook the Atlanteans. Our DNA was dumbed down. The Earth was pushed off her natural axis. A large meteor or something hit the Earth, and the Earth was shifted off her natural axis. So everything is a reversal now of what happened at Atlantis. And so our DNA is changing back to her natural blueprint. The Earth is shifting back onto her natural axis, and anything that is on the Earth that is not of a vibration of love is falling away, is crumbling away. So we are actually taking back our power and realizing who we are, where we're from, because we're not from here.
So do you think that it's inevitably going to be positive then? Do you think it's definitely heading in a positive direction? That's good.
I do, Lee, but I think that I feel that this is a great birthing process. Mm-hmm. And it's painful. It's the more awake you are, the less painful it is. The less awake you are, the more painful it is. So there's a huge amount of people that are asleep and dumbed down, hugely due to the school system, which I didn't have. I never entered the school system. I would go for like maybe in total about a week, a year. And that maintained my ability to keep my ability to connect with the Pleiadians. And I remember going to school one day, and there were the big black gates. I don't know if you've heard this.
I have,
my
yeah.
interview.
But you can say it for
Okay,
this.
so yeah, so they kept me out of it. I mean, they told me, you know, you would have been lost to us if we'd let you go in, because I had this vortex of energy in front of me and around me that I couldn't move. And I was talking to this about this to a friend the other day, but it's mostly happened when, for example, I was almost involved in a car accident and this energy came over me where I couldn't move. And then I actually watched the car accident. So it's been times when it's for my safety, it's for my protection. And I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, but this is a great time of a great awakening of humanity. And many starseeds are waking up now. I won't say I was one of the first, but I woke up in, because I wasn't, but I woke up in, there's levels of waking up. So you wake up and then you continue with your life, and you wake up again to some more or new or higher information or awareness. And then you continue with your life. And again, so it's like waves of waking up. So my first wave that I remember consciously was in 2009, where I actually began to channel the Pleiadians. And I was living in a very rural part of Ireland on the beach, and it was just a beautiful place. And didn't have any concrete, or there wasn't many cars, you know, there was only a few, like 2 or 3 neighbors, and it was a 20-minute walk into the local village. So I didn't have a lot of distractions. I didn't have children. I didn't have a husband. It was just me growing my own vegetables in the garden and going to the beach and channeling, basically. And that's where I wrote my first book.
Yeah, going back to what you said about that, about school, I really do agree with that, but that's one of the things that is probably most important to me, is this idea about like the school system. It really does need to change. It needs to be completely dismantled and just reworked in a different way, because you're absolutely right about that. So that's, yeah, I did hear that, and when I heard that, I did think that was really interesting that happened to you.
Yeah, and I feel so strongly about the school system, and I understand that people who don't get it, I understand that. But I also know and understand in my heart that all systems on Earth are run by negative ET energy, including and especially the school system. So when you can see that, when you can feel it, like I would never send my children. I don't have children, but if I ever did have them, I would never send them to school, because I understand the school system is a negative agenda run by negative ET energy. And to send your children to school, understanding that would be evil as far as I'm concerned.
The last interview that I did with a guy named Will about natural law, that also came down this path, which I think that most things regarding human evolution and awakening do come down this path. And one thing that we did discuss there was, you know, I agree with what you're saying, but it's, the system makes it very hard for a lot of people in like a monetary situation to homeschool and to, you know, to live in the way that me and you know is the right way to live. So it is,
well, that's intentional.
Yeah,
that's intentional. They've set it up. They've set up the system to work for them. They've set up the system to work for them. So I know I have a very good friend who has a son, and it breaks my heart. And I've had a few conversations with her recently where, because she's woken up over the last couple of years, and before that, I wouldn't have been able to speak to her about it. But recently I've had some conversations with her, and she's about the school system and not sending her son to school.
Yeah.
And she's considering it, but she would find it incredibly difficult not to send him to school, because she's a single mum. I mean, there's many reasons, but one of them is she's a single mum. She's on welfare. So she's time-wise, energy-wise, and money-wise, she would find it a lot easier for her to send him to school. So I do get that. But, you know, at the same time, part of me also thinks, God bless her, that if you're going to have kids, then do your very best to ensure that they are not controlled or manipulated or governed by any evilness outside of themselves.
Yeah, there needs to be a lot of thought and consideration into bringing children up, a lot more than is currently going into it.
Well, here's the thing, Leah. All systems on Earth are crumbling and falling away. So we now need to start setting up, you know, the ones that are awake and aware, like you and myself and thousands of others, starseeds as well. We need to start creating new systems. So we need to stop focusing on the negative bullshit that's going on and turn our attention over here and focus on what we want to create.
Yeah.
Including new school systems, or including homeschooling, or some type of local community where we can maybe take turns and drop our children off and take turns to homeschool them or school them in, you know, or day trips out to the forest or the beach or in nature or the garden center, or start, you know, we need to start creating systems that are in place of the negative agenda, because that is not for they do not have our best interests at heart. They don't. You know, the school system is about controlling and manipulating and dumbing down kids. That is why I was able to maintain my connection to the Pleiadians.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So with your connection to the Pleiadians, I kind of believe that, I don't know what you believe, but that we've all had many lifetimes in different realms and different star systems, and I don't feel specifically like I connect with a certain one. And although one of the most common beings that I will see is like a tall white being, and there are some that I see like more often than others, don't really feel connected to a specific, you know, a race of ET or whatever you would call them. What do you think about that? Do you, like, why do you think that you are so closely connected to them specifically? Is the reasons for that? Or?
Well, I think there's a few reasons. One of the reasons being that I had some shamanic journeys where I was shown that I'm from the Pleiadians. I was shown what my reason for being here is, what my mission is, what my purpose is, and I was shown my past, some of my past lives on the Pleiades. So my memory of the Pleiades, of the Pleiadians, is quite strong. But that's not to say that I haven't had past lives over here, or stronger connections with different positive ETs, like the Arcturians or the Lyrans or the Syrians. It's just that I've been shown. So if you have, say you have a circle of different planets, the light has shone for me on the Pleiades. But that's not to say that there isn't a bigger light over here. It's just that my perception or my perspective from where I'm looking, this is what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Pleiadian connection with myself. But that's not to say that if I shifted my perspective, I wouldn't see even a bigger connection with a different starseed, star nations over here. So it's just perception. Everything is really perception of where you're standing. You know, if you get a group of people circling a tree, surrounding a tree, they'll all have a different perspective of the tree. but they're all seeing the same tree. So we do all, as starseeds, we do all come from somewhere. I call it the outside in, because we've come from outside to Earth for this time now on Earth. It doesn't really matter at the moment if you can't remember where you're from, because eventually you will remember. There are techniques, there are things you can do to help that, one of them being shamanic journeys. The other is meditation. And shamanic journeys are just higher or deeper than meditations. So I love the shamanic work. I love the shamanic whole experience. So I always recommend people go and have a shamanic journey. That's one of the ways to access that kind of information. But, you know, if you feel like you're not from here, then you're not from here. So maybe start exploring that, you know, where you are from. And you may be from, like me, I am from several different places. I've had lives on several different places, but I feel more connected to the Pleiadian energy. Maybe it's because that was a very recent past life. Maybe that's why I feel such a strong connection to them.
Do you feel that maybe you were given your specific journey on Earth from them, or from when you were there, you agreed to this, and maybe that's why you have that specific connection at this time?
Both. Yeah. I feel I was sent here. I feel they sent me here. I feel I sent myself here. I signed up for a contract. And this is huge. What we're talking about. That, you know, the question is huge. The question is great, because that is why we're here now on Earth at this time. This is the great awakening of humanity, and we came here for this time now on Earth. Thousands of us. Many of us still don't remember why we're here, and are very lost and depressed and suicidal and just lost in the chaos. But many of us have woken up and realized, this is why I'm here for this time. It's not just because I'm from the Pleiades or I'm from wherever, and it's not just because I'm a starseed. I was sent here. I sent myself here to be here on Earth at this time, the specific window of opportunity where we get to raise the consciousness of humanity. It's epic times we're living in. It's epic.
The shamanic journeying, would you recommend a specific practitioner for that, or?
There's a lady, I would. There's I've met quite a few over the years that are very good, and there's Sandra Ingerman in America, who I haven't met, but I've heard she's very good. There's also, so Sandra Ingerman is Ingerman, Sandra Ingerman. There's also another lady called Little Grandmother, or Kaisha Crowther. Kaisha Crowther is Keisha, and then Crowther is Crow, Ther. And who else would I recommend? At the moment, yeah, I would recommend those two.
Okay.
But also for people to start trusting who they're drawn to. You know, they may get even told a name, or the name may keep popping up to them on you know, in front of them in a book or on screen on the internet. So let yourself be guided to who you're meant to go to. And teachers will come and go, you know.
You think of kind of CE5 and human initiated contact experiences?
I think we have to be very careful, because energy can and does disguise itself as energy that it's not. So what I mean by that is that you can have negative energy, whether it's a spirit energy or a negative ET energy, or any energy can disguise itself as being of the light when it's not. And I have been deceived and tricked myself. You know, I've had experiences that I thought were positive and they weren't, they were negative. So, but eventually I came to realize, oh, that's not what it says it is. And any energy can do that, whether it's Auntie Nellie or Archangel Michael or negative ET energy. So we have to be very careful, especially in the beginning, when we start to connect to ET energy and spirit, any energy outside of ourselves. We have to be very careful. And you learn by experience. So you know, when a baby is walking, it falls down. That's how we learn by making mistakes. So we have to be very careful that we don't we have to be very careful that the energy that we are connecting to is positive, is loving, is of the light. And I think it's a natural process that we won't always get it right, that we do make mistakes. And I think that is also part of the beautiful picture. I think that's also crucial, that we do make mistakes and we do fall down. Yeah. Because it's only in falling down that we can get up and move forward.
Yeah, and so just kind of working on our intuition, working on your intuition.
Yes. And learning to trust intuition. When the Pleiadians come to me, they have such a feeling of love that is times 100. So that's one of the ways I know it's them. And when I had this other energy that came in and tried to disguise it as them, at first I didn't question it because I just thought it was them. And then I realized there was this absence of love. So then I realized that it wasn't them. But we do, as channels, we have to be very careful. Very, if you're not sure of an energy, stand back and observe it and listen to it, feel how it feels, and just make sure that it's of the light. Because as we are lighthouses, we are like lighthouses. So the light is drawn to us, but the dark is also drawn to us because of our light. The light is not drawn to the dark, but the dark is drawn to the light. So, and we are like lighthouses, so we have to be very careful. It's okay to make mistakes and turn around and go in a different direction. It's okay to do that.
It's all just part of what learning, really, isn't it? Learning process.
It is. Yeah, we learn by making mistakes.
So you mentioned shamanic journeying and meditation. Have you ever had a past life regression, like a hypnosis?
Yes, yes, I have. I had a very interesting one because I had such a traumatic childhood. I actually went years ago, I was in my 20s, so it was about 20 years ago now. I went for a regression. I was doing a healing course to learn healing with the NFSH. I had a friend that was doing it in, I think it was Devon or Cornwall. So I was doing this course, and then I met someone on the course who her father was doing hypnotherapy. And so I went to try and unlock some of my childhood memories, because I have a lot of blank childhood memories that I just don't remember. So I know there was a lot of abuse there. And my reason for going was to go and find unlock some of these past childhood memories of trauma, because I know I was traumatized as a child. So, I mean, my shaman, my first shaman teacher did tell me that I've been abused since I was in a cot. So those are the types of memories I was going to discover. And instead of doing that, because my brain wasn't ready to uncover those memories. So instead of doing that, what my brain did was it skipped over my childhood memories and went back to a past life. And it was either 1890 something, 1896 or 1897, where I was in a church, and I haven't shared this publicly yet with anyone else, but I was in a church and I was called Sam, and I had white skin. There was a lot of other babies in the church, and there were what I would call black nuns. They were, I don't mean black skin, I mean black energy in the heart. They did have white skin, I think. And I do remember there was a black guy there in the church with like a loincloth on, and it was a country that was like desert land, because it was very hot during the day and very cold at night. And I remember some type of sand outside, but I was called Sam, and there were hundreds of other babies in the church, and we were all being sacrificed. And I was female, and I was actually placed on some type of, it looked like an elephant trunk to me. And I was actually placed onto this elephant trunk. And when I came out of the regression, I realized that, because I'd always had stomach problems. Up until that regression, I'd always had stomach problems, like pains in my stomach. And I didn't know why. I'd been to the doctors and the hospital and everything, and they said, well, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you. But that actually stopped on that day. So whatever I had remembered, it had cleared up, because this elephant, it looked like an elephant tusk, but it was cold. It was probably metal, because it wasn't porous. So yeah, that's what they were doing. They were placing the babies onto that. I've not shared that publicly yet with anyone else, but with everything that's coming to light at the moment, with the child sacrifices and the underground caves and tunnels and things that are being, the dark evils that are being coming to the surface and to the light and being exposed, that actually, I think, is a lot more common than we realize down through the history. So I did try and find out some history about it, but I never managed to find out anything about that previous lifetime. But I remember it.
It's actually terrifying how common it is when you look into it and when you talk to people who have been through that kind of thing. It's so common, and it's so disturbing and sad, and
it is and it is, it's horrific. And because of that, Lee, because of that, we need to come together, we need to stand up, we need to unite. That is why we're here for this time on earth now, to come together, to raise our energies, to hold hands, to shine, to step forward and take back our power, take back ownership of the earth, because we've been controlled and dumbed down and manipulated mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every way, to be controlled, to be a slave species. So now the tide is turning. So those things are horrendous, but we need to understand that they are real.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get sucked down by the negative images and not to be traumatized by them, but just understand, okay, that is going on, that is real. What can I do about it? What can I do about it? And I'm speaking to the audience now, so we can all do something, however small it is, we can all do something.
So I think this links into the negative ET energy that you talk about, and I've had you mention in some of the other videos that I watched. And how do you think it comes about? Like, do you think there are physical ETs, like physically in places of power, and because I know that gifted people who have these connections like you do, and like some people I know they are targeted by negative events, life events, and things to really try to bring them down. Do you think, say for example, a family member is abusive, do you think that this ET energy, is there the negative ET energy? Is there like a program maybe in the mind that turns on at certain times, or are the people who inherently have it and that's just who they are? Like, how do you think it physically is in this reality?
Okay, that's a great question. What I've come to, I've had an experience a few times where I was taken out of my body, and I was shown that the family I was born into is very dysfunctional, and this will sound crazy to some people, and that's okay, because if you told me this 20 years ago, it would have sounded crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had this experience a few times where I was shown that I was born into a family that is either controlled knowingly or unknowingly, that it is controlled by negative ET energy. Now, they may not be aware of it, and they may be aware of it, and there may be varying degrees of that at different moments. But I was born into a family that is ruled by negative ET energy, and that does, you know, I can hear the craziness in that, but that is my experience, and that is real. So we are at war. There is a war between light and dark that has been going on for a very long time, and this is the last battle. I don't know how long this battle is going to last, but it is the last battle, and I do see a positive outcome. But many of us, as starseeds, we come from the outside in. So I call it coming from the outside in, where we don't come from Earth, and we come to Earth for this mission, for this purpose. And we are like a drop of light born into a family of sometimes we can be born into very dark families where there is, like mine, there is a lot of abuse, a lot of poverty, a lot of neglect, rape, you know, even torture, or far worse things as well. When you go into the occult and darker satanic families, you know, mine was by no means the worst at all. You know, it could have been a lot worse for me. So we are born into families to expose them, to win this war. We're here to win the war. And this is one of the last this is the last battle. So I know that's going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but I also know that a lot of people will understand that. And many will get shown the same thing when they're further on the journey, you know. So we are ruled, we are governed, we are manipulated, we are controlled, we are dumbed down by negative ET forces. And that's hard for a lot of people to stomach, because they see the government as being a positive thing, and it's not. It never has been, it never will be. So, you know, all systems are crumbling and falling away. It's a war. It's a war. It's a very real war on humanity and consciousness and ownership of the earth. So we are often born into families that are the enemy. Let me put it that way. We are born into families where they are the enemy. And I've seen that not just with myself, but I've seen it with several other friends, actually, and clients and people that I know. You know, I'm not talking about people that I don't know over, you know, outside of my immediate circle. I'm talking about people that I know in my immediate circle. So yeah, and that is something that they need to wake up to themselves. A lot of people feel that they are the black sheep, or that they are the odd one out in the family. There is a very direct link there with people that are abused, and the family will ignore or deny or dismiss the abuse. That, to me, is the same energy I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get a child that's abused in a family, and the child grows up, and then the family dismisses or denies, or, you know, turns their head and won't accept it and won't listen to the child or the adult, that to me is demonic.
And that's a very common thing too with it, I think. It's just being ignored, yeah.
It's very common, and that is, I mean, that is demonic energy. When you are not listening to the person or the child who is a family member, to me, that is the same energy that I'm talking about. That is demonic ET energy. That is not a natural human thing to do. That is a program.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the easiest thing when you're in that position, or sometimes the hardest thing that you need to do, is to actually walk away from the family, which I've had to do. And it has been very difficult for me to do that, because some of those family members, when I was younger, I was very close to, especially my brother. But I don't know what happened to my brother over the years, but he's not the same person that I grew up with. I don't know what happened to him. So sometimes it's the hardest thing to do, is to walk away from family that you have loved when you were growing up as a child. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's necessary for my spiritual growth, for my moving forward, for my reclaiming my sovereignty, for my standing in my own light, in my own essence, in my own God source. I can't have any energy around me or clinging on to me that is not of the light.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't have it.
I think self-sovereignty is a really important thing as well. I was listening to something you was talking about, a declaration of, what was it?
Yeah, it's a declaration of sovereignty.
Yeah.
And that's, I found that I was, because I have been attacked a lot by negative ET energy, but also by black ops and military black ops. I've been targeted basically since I started to consciously channel the Pleiadians. So what I did last year, I can't remember when I did it, but I realized I needed to sit down and write my own declaration of sovereignty in my own words. So Laura Eisenhower did a video on it where she spoke of it. So maybe Google that. For anyone listening, you know, that's a great video to watch, where she talks about the declaration of sovereignty. And she just does it in the moment where she gets it looks like she gets a download of information coming to her, and she just shares it. So I realized last year sometime that I needed to do this for myself. And I was already doing it, but I realized I needed to sit down and write it for myself. So it's I've worded it for me. So that's what I did. I sat down and wrote it, and I printed it out as well and signed it. So I think that's something that really has helped. It has shifted the energy, because we are at war, and the more that we as light workers up our game, the more the negative ups their game. You know, we are both fighting, both sides are fighting for our very lives. You know, this is not imaginary or woo-woo. This is a real war going on humanity and consciousness. And it may not be a war that like the likes of we've seen before with weapons and bombs and grenades and all of that kind of physical stuff, but this is a war nonetheless.
That's it. It's a really lovely symbol of self-sovereignty as well, to like write that all up yourself and sign it. Like, it's just such a nice symbol, like to represent that. I think that was like really beautiful when I heard about that.
And there's a lot of power in it as well. A lot of power in it.
And things like that, they hold a lot of power. It might just be something you've written, but it's like saying positive affirmations, or the power of your mindset. It really is a powerful thing.
It's very powerful, Lee. We are creative beings. We do, energy, we create our reality as we go. And energy is powerful. We don't understand. We haven't even scraped the surface. And the more I know, the more I'm realizing how little I know about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another stage of waking up as well, because we do wake up in layers, in stages. But I am realizing the more I know, the less I know, that I know nothing.
Sorry. Quote by Socrates, actually. I'm intelligent because I know that I know nothing. I've always really liked that.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Yeah.
It's like having a totally open mind to anything being possible.
Yeah. And not to have negative judgment or negative reaction, just to sit back and be an observer. The Buddhists have a very good techniques where they teach you to sit back and observe your thoughts. So, and that can help with anxiety, that can help with depression as well. But when you just become the observer rather than reacting instantly like a knee-jerk reaction,
Mm-hmm.
they are masters at meditation and working with the mind.
Yeah, I did volunteer at a Buddhist center in Portugal, and yeah, that was such a peaceful and lovely time, and the weather was really nice as well.
That makes all the difference. The sun is makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. I love the sun. Do you have any specific message for this period of time right now from the Pleiadians that maybe you'd like to say?
It's time now to stand up. It's time now to step up. It's time to take back our power. It's time for us. It's time for you to take back your power. It's time for us to take back our power. Turn off the media, turn off the radio, turn off the TV, put the newspaper down, go into your heart and meditate and realize who we are, realize who you are, that we are divine beings, that are God's source, that are part of God's source, that we do not come from here. We've never been alone. We've been lied to en masse about our history, about our science, about our technology, about our school systems, about our governments, about big pharma, medicine, about a million other things. We need to come back to small communities. We need to start growing our own food and vegetables. The supermarkets are full of toxins, chemicals, pesticides, all of which are damaging to us to some degree or other. Everything has been weaponized against us. So it's time for us to shift our energy from focusing on the negative and what's going on in the world outside, and step back into ourselves and realize that we are the universe, we are God, we are divine beings of love and light, and focus our energy little by little, more and more, on the world we want to create. It starts with us now, right this second, with the resources we have. If we have a little garden, if we have a little patio, if we have a little windowsill, if we have a little pot, we can grow something in lettuce that regrows itself when you cut it, or something. We need to take our children out of the schools. We need to start taking control of our own health, our own sovereignty, our own gardens, our own houses. Take back our power and stop giving it away to the government. that is going to that doesn't have our best interests at heart.
That's just an amazing message, because especially with gardening, that's a message that I've been given to collect seeds and to just grow plants, and it's something that everyone can do. I'm actually in a group at the moment who are planning permaculture projects in my area, and we hope to branch out and for all areas around us to join in and to, like, you know, talk to their councils and get their own piece of land and just feed the community and, you know, ourselves. And like you say, everyone has a windowsill, a little bit of a garden, some land, or I grew potatoes in massive plant pots last year. So, you know, even if you don't have any grass, like I don't have any grass, you can do it. You can, there's so many things you can do in so many different ways you can do it. And I think that's a really important tip or bit of advice, because that's a really easy one. It's a really easy place for people to start, because like we were talking about before with taking children out of the school system is definitely an important goal, but not something a lot of people can do right now. But growing our own food is somewhere where we can all start. It's so simple for all of us to do that, and I think that's a really important message. Very important message.
Yeah, we need to start where we are. So with now with the resources we have. So, you know, it's not about going out and buying a piece of land, or, you know, start with what we have now, with the resources that we have in front of us that are readily available to us. So I think it's great what you're doing, because I think it's so important. I think if we all can do a little bit, that amounts to quite a lot, actually. And when people work together and unite and come together and have little gardens and growing fruit and vegetables, you know, there's a lot of elderly people that aren't able to look after their gardens. And it would be great to see people going in and volunteering to help with their gardens and actually growing things. There's also forest planting as well, or planting on a little bit of outdoor area.
That's a lovely idea about elderly people's gardens. That's definitely something to consider. That's really lovely. I did want also to ask you about I've heard in a recent video that you did, I think it was recent, visions of things like tsunamis in, I think it was the UK. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Do you have any further information on that?
Okay, thanks, Lee. Yeah, I've been having real dreams since I was a child, since I was 8, the first time I remember them. So I've been having these for a long time, and I know the difference between, well, I say I know the difference. But anyway, so this, over the last couple of years, actually it started in Ireland, where I started dreaming of real tsunamis coming in and hitting the west coast of Ireland and the west coast of the UK, going up to kind of the beginning of Scotland, where it would kind of temper out at the beginning of Scotland. So it wasn't going up and actually reaching Scotland, although I did have one where it did go up and reach Scotland, and it would come in to the west coast of Ireland and the UK, and it kind of tapers off around the middle somewhere of the UK, which would be where I am in Portsmouth. So along the coastal line. And these are real dreams that I've had of the weather and the water coming at us, and also the whales as well. So yeah,
Do you think that is a natural disaster, or do you think maybe that is caused by?
I don't feel it's a natural thing. I could be wrong, but I think with, you know, things that are going on with the weather at the moment, I don't think it's a natural thing. You know, there was fires in Australia and there's been snow in Texas. That I saw a video the other day. And anyone listening, please go and watch this video. It's on my I've put it on my Facebook group, one of my Facebook groups called The Great Awakening of Humanity 2020. And so she's in Texas and it's snowing and quite heavily. And she takes the ball of snow into the kitchen and she lights it. And it doesn't melt.
Oh, yeah, I think
it goes black. It doesn't melt. It doesn't burn. It just starts going black. And she does it for about a minute or two. That's not normal snow. You know, if you try and light snow, it will melt. This doesn't melt. There's no water drops or anything. She just ends up with a ball of snow that goes black in her hand. So that's not natural. So I don't know what's going on there. I know that we are hugely weaponized, and a lot of our weather isn't. A lot of the natural disasters, I don't believe, are natural. There was a tsunami way back, about 10 years ago, I think it was. I think it was in Thailand or somewhere. I don't think that was natural. I don't think that was natural. We are, you know, we're weaponized on a mass scale, and especially with the weather and chemtrails and all kinds of things. So, yeah.
Your answers have been great and really, really interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. Can I just mention a few things before we go?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, darling. I'm doing a StarSeed workshop on the 27th and 28th of March. If anyone would like to come and check that out. It's on my website, thepleiadianchild.com, which is PLEIADIAN.com. I'm updoing my website at the moment, so it's looking a bit old and tired, but I'm just in the process of kind of upgrading it. I also do readings. I do normal readings, and I also do Pleiadian channeled readings as well. I also have my book as well, which is thepleiadianchild.com. So yeah, and what else? Yeah, come and join my groups on Facebook, The Great Awakening of Humanity 2020, Cosmic Ascension, Waves of Light as well. My Facebook page is Soma ARah. So there's lots of ways you can get in touch with me. My email is thepleiadianchild@hotmail.com, and would love to come back and do more with you, Leah. Lee, yeah. Sorry, I keep calling you Leah.
It's absolutely fine. Yeah, that would be great, and I will link everything you just mentioned in the description as well. So, yeah, thank you so much. It's been so nice. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Okay, darling. Bye.